Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're joined now, as your minds have seen, with that welcoming slide by Honorable Adeyinka Ajayi, who is the Chairman, House Committee on AIDS, Loans and Debt Management. He's also a member of the Aviation Committee, the MDG, NDDC, and member Joint Committee on MTEF, to mention a few. There's so many of them, actually. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. And
well, of course, you know, when we talk about the House of Representatives and you being a member, the first expectation is, oh dear, what will happen when the House eventually resumes? The political equation. Do we expect any major activity to the extent that, look, this may distract from the functions of the House, a la budget 2014?
well, first, permit me to wish our viewers a prosperous and a useful 2014.
Hoping the House will help make that happen.
Well, back to your question. Yes, of course, there would be a lot of political maneuvering in the next year, this coming year, and potential election year, I must add. But as a government, the intention of the National Assembly, and particularly the House of Reps, is to ensure that there is governance in the country. The expectation of Nigerians is far beyond what we believe, rightly or wrongly, should be happening right now, which is revolving around the political intrigues. Parties growing, parties decreasing, parties expanding. In the House of Representatives, we're looking beyond that. We have more serious business to look at. The budget 2014 is still outstanding. The PIB is still outstanding. The constitutional review process is still in view. There's a lot of work still to be done. And we're trying to ensure that we don't get distracted by all the political...
but I assume it won't be easy.
It's not meant to be easy.
Oh.
It's not expected to be easy, but we're keeping our eye on the ball. We're focused, and the leadership is committed to ensuring that there's governance in Nigeria in 2014.
Because we have had people who have come here saying, listen, this year we'll have less of governance and more of politicking. Because from what they've seen, that they say will be the case.
Well, the essence of leadership is to lead. And like I said, Nigerians expect that there will be governance at every point in time. Every reasonable people should expect governance at every point in time. There may be instances where you have decreasing governance activity just immediately preceding election years, just like we have here in Nigeria. But the focus of the leadership of the House of Representatives is to ensure that there is governance, because there has to be governance for Nigeria to move forward. And that is the intention of this parliament at this point in time.
It's interesting that you say this, because, I mean, you've listed a host of things that were still left undone in 2013. For instance, the Constitution Review, I believe it started in 2012, entered into 2013, and then the talk of national dialogue. And it would seem that nothing was heard from both chambers of the National Assembly right after, you know, national dialogue was mentioned. Are you waiting for the national dialogue, or are you proceeding with your own constitution review anyway?
Of course, we are proceeding with our constitutional review, but we are Nigerians, and we can't refuse to be aware of our environment. The fact that the executive is pursuing a national dialogue agenda is not lost on us. How that fits into our plan is up to the executive. We have a constitutional review. Unfortunately, I'd love to answer your question more directly. There are not things left undone. Constitutional review is not an event. It's a process. So it's not, we're not particular about a time frame.
Where are we in
What
the
we're
process?
particular about is the substance of
Where
what
are
we're
we
doing.
in that process? Because the last we remembered was that you came back with memorandum from your different constituencies and it was submitted to I think the Speaker, or is it to the chambers of the House of Representatives? And we also saw that happen in the Senate as well. And it was seen that was the last we heard of it. We don't know what else has happened in that process. Where are we exactly in the process?
Well, you're aware that there's a committee of the National Assembly that is empowered to undertake the process that would lead to the review of the Constitution and final giving Nigerians a brand new Constitution that we believe will be our own. That process is ongoing. The stage we're at, yes, we've gone back to our constituencies and we've sought the opinion of our constituents. and
Which some
we've
people have also
submitted
put a
that.
question mark on.
Well, we've been transparent in the process. It's not impossible to have doubting Thomases. We've done our best. We've gone back to our constituents. I know that majority of us, if not all of us, have come back with what our constituents want. We've put that together. And it's gone back to the committee that we've set up, which is between the Senate and House of Representatives, to put all this together and report back to Nigerians through the House to take the final step
Let
in
me
the
ask this
constitutional review
because
process.
lots of people also, I imagine, will be interested in this one. Do the members, because you talked about consulting with constituencies, do they also consult before they move from one party to the other?
Well, I guess as a politician, it's absolutely important that you consult
with
with your
constituency,
constituents.
not just with other fellow politicians.
Well, your fellow politicians are part of your constituents.
No, I mean,
Your fellow
those
politicians in the
who
constituency.
elected you.
Well, with the electorates, that's what I'm saying. As a politician, it's important and vital that you don't lose or break the chain between yourself as an elected representative and the constituency that you represent. So it will be expedient of you to have consultation with your constituents before you take such decisions. I would, and I believe a lot of our colleagues would do the same. But it's expedient. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do it, but it's expedient to so do. I would, if I were moving.
What do you say to those who have this opinion, and some of them unapologetically so, that politicians are just there for what they can get, not necessarily for the people, that, look, this type is about them?
It's a perception. And it's really down to us as politicians to continue to work hard to ensure that that perception goes away. It's a perception, it's been there long before us, it probably will remain after we're gone, but depending on the effort that we put right now into ensuring that this perception changes. And the only way the perception would begin to change is if the lives of ordinary Nigerians begin to change. And that, again, is not an event. It's a process. It takes a while. It's probably going to outlive this 7th National Assembly. It will go into the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. It's a process.
You know, that's where
It's perception.
That's where Nigerians unhappy, about, because sometimes you would have thought that this particular assembly, when it started, the 7th Assembly, a lot of people saw zest, gust in it, and we thought that a whole lot that we have carried over would have been sorted out in this particular dispensation. A case in point, which you just also reminded us, the PIB, and even 2014 is still not been passed, the budget. So doesn't that actually give bite to what Chamberlain said, that some have come to a conclusion that 2014 is going to be more politics with less development, especially when we talk about the National Assembly?
Yes, it's a reasonable expectation, like I said. Yes, it is a reasonable expectation. The elections are very close, possibly December, maybe January next year. It's reasonable to expect less governance, more politicking. But I can assure you that the leadership of the House of Representatives is focused and with the eye on the ball to ensure that there is governance. Now, governance measured by whether or not we're able to pass the PIB may be a tall order. Governance in terms of whether or not we're able to conclude the constitutional review process is a tall order. Governance by the budget of 2014 is not a tall order. We have to have a budget in place. We don't have to have a constitution that is reviewed in 2014. It would be nice to have it. What is important is to have a constitution that we can call our own, acceptable to the generality of Nigerians, that can impact on the nation as we want it to be. That is the measure, not the time frame. The same, I believe, goes for the PIB. Yes, the PIB is very, very important to the upstream and the midstream sector and to the Nigerian economy globally. But what we're looking at is actually taking our eye off the oil sector and refocusing our energies to other sectors that contribute greatly to the GDP. Agriculture. We've had growth in the last few years, but this growth is not translating to jobs for Nigerians. And as a parliament, we're developing the capacity to understand why. And we're making good progress. Now we know why. We can explain it. We know that the sectors that contribute greatly to the GDP is not growing at double-digit figures, like those sectors that contribute single digits to GDP growing at double digits. And that's why it doesn't translate to jobs. We're growing in wholesale retail business, we're growing in real estate, we're growing in telecommunications. These are sectors that are growing rapidly.
You know,
but their contribution to GDP is limited.